Today is November 13, 2019, 12:10 more or less. I call the meeting to order. And request a roll call.
Mr. Gonzalez, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Martinez,
Present.
Mrs. Brewster, and Ms. Pettis. We have a quorum.
I believe we're waiting on the minutes, so we can skip it.
Let's skip that. I
And
don't
come
know
back
if
to
we're
it.
gonna find them for this meeting.
Not a problem,
We'll just
sir.
bring them back.
Not a problem. The fourth item on the agenda would be citizens communication. I don't know if there's any report.
I don't think we have any citizen communications, but we do have a new member that's present. Introduce new member.
Yeah, my name is Vanessa Perez. George Walkill invited me to be on the committee. So,
Nice to meet you. Welcome. The next item on the agenda would be discussion and action on election of committee officers. I know there's been a kind of a massive change in our structure, so, John, how's this normally done?
It's really up to the committee. Usually, or we've done in the past, is somebody has made a motion to nominate an officer, and if that person accepts that, then, they accept it, or if not, they,
Let's see.
ask somebody else to be nominated, and then if that motion is seconded, then there's a vote, and it's up to you all if you want to do just an open vote, or do
And how many?
secret ballots.
How many
or-
positions do we need, Jim?
So we need a chair and a vice chair.
Okay, great. Well, I guess, would anyone like to volunteer to chair this committee?
You would want to?
I'll volunteer myself.
I second your motion.
And would anyone like to volunteer to be vice chair of this committee?
What did it tell her?
Just when the chair's not here.
And it's just kind of running the meetings.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know how to do it, but I guess I'm not to. Correct.
All right.
Having that done, we can move on to. Yes, of
Chairman?
course.
Let's see.
Yes, I make a motion to nominate myself, Russell Jordan, as committee chair. Any second? I'll second that. All those in favor? And Ms. Brewster, I make a motion to nominate her as co-chair, or rather, vice chair.
Second that.
Motion passes. The next item on the agenda would be item number 6, update on water conservation ordinance.
Good afternoon. I wasn't sure how many people were going to be here, but I think I made just the right amount. This is a new water conservation ordinance. It has been adopted and it has been approved by the city manager. There really isn't a lot of changes, but mainly that we turned a 55-page document into a 20-page document, because there was a lot of repetitions and there was a lot of, grammar errors. And what we did here is that before, it used to be in Chapter 31, Article 3, Division 4. So we completely took it out from there and we created an Article 5. And the Article 5 is now called Water Conservation and Drought Contingency Plans. Before, the numbering was done in sections 31 through 195 through 31 to 42. So we removed that completely for more organization purposes, and we did sections. We did section 31 195 through 31 142. My mistake. Before it used to be 31 141 to 31 141 88. So that's for more organization purposes. Sections were condensed because, like I said, there was a lot of repetitions. The definitions were moved into a separate section that has all the definitions that are used in utilities department. We updated the 5 and 10 year goals. What we did there is that we maintained it for state, we maintain the roads. We maintained it for the state purposes. We also updated we updated section 31205, the water rate and sewer rate structure. Obviously with the newest water rates, the new charges that already got accepted. Also penalties for violation of the water conservation plans. Before we used to have certain particular amounts. So what we did now is that we reference the section in 31142, which is penalties in general. So that amount is gonna be, you know, if you wanna look for a particular amount for citation, etc., you go straight to the penalty section. We added section 31210, plans review and update. And if you notice, in general, 31210 states that this water conservation plan has to be updated every 5 years. And we also have to provide a document to not only TCQ but TWCD where we show them the water loss and the water use that is for those previous 5 years. We removed section 31141, wholesale water supply contract requirements in its entirety, because the city of Laredo is not a wholesale water supplier. We also worked on section 31214, water conserving plumbing fixtures by referencing the requirements in the plumbing code in section 25-3. Aside from that, the other sections were condensed, and also on the very end, on the previous ordinance, we used to have, I believe it was around 10 pages of all the type of plants that citizens were allowed to put in their yards. But what we did is that instead of it being on the document, the actual ordinance, we make that available on the website for the customers. So that way it's not such a big document. And aside from that, that's really it.
What website is that on, that you said?
The website, it's on the utilities department. And this is the old ordinance. So this was the whole, the document was very big. So what we did is that we have all this in a PDF in the website for customers to always go back to it. And that's it.
So I've got a question on this. The Xeriscape is still just a recommendation, there's no,
Yeah, it's not mandatory. We recommend it for customers.
and then on the conservation, that still is, basically you can waste as much water as you want until there's a drought declared, right?
Yes, as long as it doesn't go into your neighbor's property, as long as it's not unattended, or water goes unattended, there's not a limit of water. As long as it doesn't become a problem to your neighbor, that's one thing that we have.
And how about when there's excessive runoff on the street, is there a penalty for that?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, there is penalty. We do have a certain protocol that we follow versus a warning, another warning, that there is consequences.
If you see that, what are you supposed to do, like, as a citizen, if you see that somebody's, like, let's say their sprinkler gets broken, and or even like, is there like a set time when you're supposed to be watering? Like, is there, and if you see somebody watering like at 2 p.m., or does that matter?
There's really no schedule unless there is a stage declared. There really isn't a set time, but every time that we send the inspectors out there, we always recommend for them to set up their sprinklers really early in the morning or late at night. What happens is that, with the heat here in Laredo, the water evaporates.
Well, that's why.
Even in the afternoon. So it even damages the grass even more.
Because I've seen a lot of like UISD schools, business offices watering at like the wrong time.
Yeah.
So I just didn't know if there was some kind of.
No, at the moment, no, there's no.
It should let public know, because What happens is the water beats on the grass, the blades of grass, and it becomes like a magnifying glass, and it burns the grass.
It defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, I see my neighbor, I'm like, I try to explain to him, he doesn't get it.
Yeah, no, we try to do our best, we have flyers, we have we've made this quick guide for customers.
So that would be more on an outreach basis.
Yes.
Having just going to schools and stating recognition.
That's good.
And do you have like a phone number that people should call if they see like too much runoff or?
Usually what they do is that they contact 311
311.
and I get those complaints directly. Sometimes they even just call the office and we send the customers like right there, right at that point.
And who would be responsible for the enforcement?
Well, I have inspectors and I'm in charge of the program.
Okay.
So-
The Utilities department?
Yes, utilities department,
Yes.
yeah.
Do you have a pamphlet on your website where it talks about like the set guide, like the recommended times to water and all of that stuff? that we can
I
do?
believe what we have is a video, because we do have a YouTube channel, so I do have some videos that I've made, for customers. I believe there's a video, and pamphlets, I think I should have, I still have a lot of things there in the website, so, yeah, I mean, and if not, I'll definitely work on stuff like that.
Can you explain like what triggers, like the time that people are supposed to water? Is there the stages?
Okay, the
What
stages,
triggers that?
mainly it's the plants, the water plants. There's El Pico and Jefferson, they drop to a certain level of water, with water volumes, that's when the stages are here.
Also, a question, one more. If a person lives in a homeowner association that discourages airscaping like he asked about, do you guys have some kind of like policy where you override the homeowner association not wanting that so that the person can participate in that program to save water?
No, but, is that association there?
No, I'm just saying because some homeowner associations, like if you try to xeriscape, they will go after you for not having grass, not keeping up with a certain look. But if the city's encouraging it, then there's a conflict there. And I know that city's policy supersedes homeowner association policy.
Because I know like grass is allowed in all the homeowners associations. It's more usually like the shrubs and that being encouraged. Type of that way, I mean, it also, you don't want to have like one of those plants that need shade and like very low sun. It's like a desert and it's like you're in Laredo, so we could also, do that route. I
I can kind of answer that, because my parents, they don't live here, but they live in Round Rock, and they have a similar issue where they wanted to put in the little grass island between the sidewalk and the lawn, they wanted to xeriscape that, and the association won't allow it.
Right.
And unfortunately, the city ordinance doesn't supersede that, since it's a restricted covenant on the actual property. And I think that the legislature had looked at that, but nothing was passed. I do know that there was a similar issue with solar panels, to where solar panels weren't allowed in areas that had HOAs. And then a couple of sessions previous, they changed it to where state law superseded that and would allow that. And the only other time I know of that the state law changed to allow for things that weren't allowed in HOAs were political signs, which is 40 days before the election and I think 10 days after the election. So they can't prohibit your things out. But those are the only two issues that I know of that were changed recently.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda would be item number 7, discussion and presentation for the hazardous materials ordinance.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to put this item on because I know that our new CIAC member probably be interesting to you. And also, it would be a good informative review for the rest of the committee. But I'd like to introduce Mr. Fernando Sotelo. He runs our hazmat permitting program. And then Mr. Jerry Guerra, who's an inspector that does all of the inspections. He's quite knowledgeable in hazmat storage. And he's actually started a training program where permit holders come here for the day. They get 8 hours of hazmat training, get a certificate, so it keeps them current. But I want to bring them up and just give a quick overview of what the hazmat permitting program entails. I think most importantly is that when people hear hazmat, they think, a really dangerous chemical, and it may be a really dangerous chemical.
Right.
But it also includes like silica, heated plastic, a lot of items that we wouldn't normally be careful of, but when you talk about very large quantities, it becomes an issue for if that warehouse catches on fire. It's obviously going to change the way that the fire department would
Was
respond.
responded, yeah. Right, considered.
So,
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Laredo. I'm an environmental investigator with the Environmental Services Department. And thank you guys for having us. And I just want to mention real quick, our ordinance, right, is an environmental protection ordinance. And the hazmat ordinance is Article 2. So it's Chapter 33, Article 2. And you might be wondering as to what's the purpose of the ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is life and safety, right? We protect property, whether it be commercial, residential, private, or public. We protect people, we protect the community, and it's to protect our natural resources. Okay, our drinking water, our soil. That's the main purpose of our ordinance, to protect our city. Okay. Now you might be wondering also what kind of chemicals, as Mr. Porter said, right? Not all chemicals are extremely dangerous. So not every chemical that we inspect or that we check for is very harmful. So you have DOT, you have the EPA, you have OSHA, you have TCQ. I mean, the list can go on. And each different association, administration group has a different list of chemicals that they regulate. So under the city of Laredo, any chemical regulated by any of those industries, or I should say administrations, is regulated by us. So as Mr. Porter said, DOT, if it's an explosive, it's regulated by us. We have to check on it. Now you have other chemicals such as polyethylene, which is small beads of plastic, which is made of glass frames, bumper cars, almost anything is made out of polyethylene. That's also considered hazmat when it's being stored under OSHA standards. So it's very harmful to the environment or to personnel. Not really. If it catches fire, of course, it's combustible. It does present a hazard, a fire hazard. So under our ordinance, it's also considered a hazard. DOT does not consider it a hazmat, but we do. So that's just to give you a quick scenario of how a chemical can be dangerous and be considered a hazmat under our ordinance, but relatively it doesn't pose that much of a threat. Okay? We spoke about the different entities. If a company has polyethylene and nothing more, they must still require a permit with us. So you might ask yourself, what's the permit process? So once that company identifies that they have hazmat, or we identify that they do, they go ahead and fill out an application. They must submit a certificate of insurance, liability insurance, a minimum of $50,000. They must also provide an emergency response plan for us. They must also provide certified notations or a certificate or a letter by Notary Public as far as their employees being trained in accordance to any regulations that include the chemicals are being stored. Okay? They will also provide to us building plans or floor plans. They must designate where they're going to be storing their hazmat, exits, any kind of fire extinguishers, what else?
They provide the location, and all this information is also referenced to the fire department. If there is a call in a warehouse that has a permit, when the fire department responds, they have an idea of where that chemical is. It's all online with link between us and them. They can bring up that warehouse and it'll show you the site plan, it'll show you the location of where that material is stored. So, and they already know ahead of time what's in there because we have inventories of the material that's inside the warehouses. They're all online.
How about, I have a question. I do remember, a while back, I mean, it is transported by train as well. And sometimes, I mean, I don't know, is it, it's kind of, it's not, but like, considered like a spill if like it kind of like, because.
Yeah, if there's a derailment or something.
The thing is that there would be like, just, of those, the curies that you talked about, like, just all over the area, and it was by Slaughter Farm. A while back, I remember, and I mean, at that, if I would know that it would pass, or like, would it be something that you all would have checked out?
It's just mainly a fire hazard, isn't it? Not-
Yeah.
A health hazard.
It's not a health hazard, and that's the kind of thing that we have to take a look at. Yes, because under DOT or TCQ, it's not regulated by it.
Okay,
So under those laws, the railroad does not have to report it to DOT or to TCQ. Now, if it's something that's regulated by their regulations, depending on the amount, because some of the materials are depending on the quantities, then they'll have to report not only to us, but either the EPA, TCQ, or even the Railroad Commission also. Because the Railroad Commission has their own hazmat regulations too.
There was a big derailment at the ranch about 5 years ago, and they took out about 400 yards of fence, and it was all that plastic grease that came off those trains. They were all over the floor, the ground.
so they consider it like it has.
But the mainly just not health hazard, just
I mean, it's responsible for cleaning it.
Yeah,
it's just a
or,
mess, you know?
Yes.
And they
or
didn't have
it can be harmful if it goes into the water. That's the main concern. Because the fish or something might consider it food when they see
They
it.
clean most of it up.
So, but they clean it up, and railroad has their own private contractor that comes and does all their cleaning. So, they have a very quick response on anything with the railroad.
As far as enforcement, we do have 2 inspectors who go around all the Laredo area. We have right now about 670 permitted facilities. Okay? We do inspections in each facility at a minimum of twice a year. Okay, that's what I call routine inspection, and then when they do the review. And we do check, because it's part of the renewal process to make sure they have all their documents up to date and turned in on a yearly basis. The permit is renewed on a yearly basis.
Question.
Yes.
Is 2 code enforcement officers sufficient for the job that they have, or does the city need more help in that area?
Well, I've been with the city for about 12 years, and it keeps us busy. Okay, so I mean, we're up and down all areas of the town, so I think we're in good shape. I mean, there's 2 of us that do it on I guess full-time capacity, but we do have 2 other inspectors that can help us when need arises.
Because I know like in the Mineswood area, there's some areas, I know Mr. Castro had brought it up to you that one time at Mulder Elementary when you came to speak about how there's a lot of areas that are not being enforced with I guess I don't know if it's the hazardous material or if there are other violations, but so I wasn't sure if it was the hazardous material or if it was the like having tires on the side and pallets and like rubbish, debris, kind of.
Yes, well, yeah, that's a problem too. Okay, there's a lot of dead ends in all those parks, and you have trailers come in and out, and they dump their trash. Some of the companies do not allow the trailer to go inside if it's dirty. So, I mean, it's been seen to where they're just sweeping on the side of the road and taking out the trash from inside the trailer. So, in that aspect, as far as code enforcement, it's an ongoing thing also.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing.
But that's
And we
what-
try to address it as well when we have the chance. So we go to a facility, and just was by Metropolitan, all the way about mile 13, I believe. A company had a permit with us. And I told them we had high grass. It's just talking to them and educating them. You have high grass, it can be snakes, you have motors running, people waiting around, they can start a fire. Laredo's dry most of the year, so we tell them, you gotta take care of that too. We tell them, we have to issue, we'll tell them, we have to issue a warning, we'll issue a warning, but for the most part, a lot of these companies, they want to be in compliance, they don't want any trouble with the city or with the state, and they'll get it done. Any other questions?
What about the penalties? Do you think the penalties are sufficient to deter these sites from, violating ordinance?
The penalty that we have is a maximum of $2,000 per penalty. It could be per infraction, it could be per day. And I think it's a fair penalty. We're in the process where we issue warnings before we penalize them, depending on the incident, depending on what it is. But like I said, a lot of these companies don't want any trouble. They know the answer corporate. And many times when we send a fine or a citation, when it's a citation, they have to appear in court, and they have to answer to their higher ups. So they try to take care of that before any of that.
And is it possible for you all to pull their hazmat certification or their license to store hazmat material within a certain number of infractions? Is that something that happens ever?
It is in the ordinance, it is written in the ordinance that, that can happen. As far as citywide, DOT, because we need to have a permit with DOT also.
For the
For the
transportation?
registration, yeah, for the registration, that's different, we can't touch that. As far as maybe suspending their permit for a while, that can be done. It's never been done, like I said, they're usually pretty good about getting back into track and whatever they're missing and whatever they need to be compliant with. Because a lot of businesses, that's their only thing they have.
Right.
So they want to make sure that they don't lose those clients.
Sure.
As we know in transportation, you blink and you lose that client to somebody else. So they try to take care of that stuff.
Another thing is that since they have a permit, that doesn't mean they continuously store hazardous materials year round. The material comes in and out. Our system is, they need to be updating when some shipment comes in, and when it goes out, they need to take it out of the inventory.
Is there an electronic filing system or
Yes,
something?
there's an electronic filing system where they keep all the chemicals, the description of the chemical, and they update it when the trailer comes in, and it's updated on our system. When it takes off, it's deducted. So they don't have constant hazmat year round. It's in and out. It's Laredo is a transportation hub. It's this constant movement.
Do we have access to that list where it says, because I know he provided us a map at Mueller with like the location of hazardous materials in the surrounding warehouses, and I know that there's a corresponding list that describes like what exactly the material that's being stored is. Do we have access to that map and that list?
Maybe to the map and locations, I don't know if the inventory themselves, I don't think so, because a lot of them handle trade materials and it's because of their competition themselves. They don't want everybody else to know what.
But us
But
as
they're
a committee, like, can we have access to it? Can I have access to it?
I
To the-
can show
yeah.
the committee that. I think, ultimately, it's, if you were to put in a public information, what does this warehouse have? The city does. But in terms of having that open to the public where people can look through it, it's more of an internal compliance list. But again, I don't see anything that would prohibit somebody from issuing or, submitting a public information request. What does this warehouse have?
Well, the reason I ask is because recently there was some kind of a issue by Mueller Elementary, like a spill, and we didn't know what kind of, issue, like what kind of spill it was, what kind of chemical, just so that, I know for me, like for the people that I deal with, I could be able to say, oh, well, it's in that area, it's just batteries, and there's just like, it's nothing really probably for us, like just so we can kind of have a general awareness of more or less like what we're like dealing with, especially around Mueller Elementary is mainly the concern.
The fire department, for somebody like that to have a Twitter account, well,
Yeah,
I don't know, I know that the vast majority, I don't know what the spill was, but was the spill on the street? At least the reports we get, I can't think of the last spill that actually occurred in a warehouse. The vast majority are on.
It was a street, right? It was a street.
And the tankers, that's what you.
And I feel our ordinance has really helped a lot, because if you look at over 10,000 traders moving around Laredo and all over the city, and the spills are very minimal, and all that is used for our enforcement and the training that we require the permit holders to have. It really helps a lot, because for the amount of trucks that we have in Laredo, it's very minimal.
Yeah, I think the vast majority are usually, or a tractor trailer, especially around rail crossings. They rupture their fuel tank. And that's been the vast majority of the spills. I don't know if that was the issue.
No, well, no, it was just, I guess, I'm not too sure, it was on the news, but it was just like something leaked out of one of the trucks and they cleaned it up real quick. But it was by the school and we were having issues, like, it was around the same time and it came out, like, because we're fighting, like, by Mulder Elementary, like, to keep warehouses out.
And I know with your issue, I mean, that issue really is its own issue.
Yeah. No, I know, but I know there's a map that he provided last time with locations of, and then I know Mr. Allgill was like, oh, they have a list that tells you what the chemicals are, and, you know, hopefully they can provide that to you, so since you're here, I just thought I'd ask.
I mean, I don't mind if the committee wants to look at that, go through that, or if you want to look at that. We did look it up, because when I was going, we looked at what was around there. And I think there's plastic pellets and.
Transmission oil,
Transmission oil, hydraulic
paint,
fluid, yeah.
hydraulic
It's
fluid.
just that since it changes, I figured, well, it might be different the next month or 2 months, so if I get one list today, it could change, so I just didn't know if there was like something that we would be able to.
The only thing I can say on that is that if it's something that's extremely dangerous, that's what the fire department would respond, and that would create whatever else needs to happen. Let the public know under the automated system. But as you can see, there was none of that. So it would be very minimal. If you have a concern, maybe you can talk to Mr. Porter and you know, we can help with your concern on a particular warehouse or matter. But as far as going out to the warehouses, they do the hazmat inspections, but they'll also enforce anything on Wilson. If they have tires, they'll let them know about the tires. If they have trash in the yards, they let them know about that. It's not, we just come here for our inspection. They'll let them know on everything else that's a code violation. They'll still mention it and write it down on the inspection.
Now, the tires are abandoned on the street or an empty lot or something. That's, we have a team that picks them up. If there's no owner.
What's the cycle of the inspection? You have a list of how often, or they like every 2 years? Every 3 years?
No, daily, as a matter of fact, there's warehouses, they're constantly out in the warehouses. I can show you some warehouses get 7, 8 times a year inspected, sometimes even more than that. They're constantly out there, they're constantly going to the new areas, they're constantly going to the new industrial parks. They're constantly on the move. They average about close to 2,500 inspections a year. There's 2 people doing it. So that's how much they do on a yearly basis. They do cover a lot of ground, and that's mainly their job all day long.
Any other questions? Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda will be item 8, items for the next meeting. John, anything that you want to talk about?
I don't know if we'll be ready, but, so the city just we just renewed our stormwater permit. with TCEQ, the stormwater permits are good for 5 years. And so we started the renewal process in 2016, and we just got our new permit in October of this year. But some of the items in this new permit, I think we're going to have to amend some of our ordinances or create a new ordinance. Specifically, where I see we're going to have to create a new ordinance is they want us to regulate people that apply pesticides and herbicides. And so we're probably only talking about maybe 5, 10 companies locally. But they do want that in there, so I've got two employees that are actually becoming licensed in pesticide and herbicide application, because I figure if we're gonna regulate them, we better be licensed to know what the rules are. And so I foresee that we'll be presenting an ordinance, probably maybe in December, if not after the new year. And then we may have to amend a few of the other ordinances. The new permit, they're kind of moving towards more water quality. And we actually have a bacteria restriction in our section of the river. I told TCEQ that, you know, we do share a border with Mexico. Most of that's probably coming from Mexico. And they understand and, you know, took note of that, but it is what it is. So we're gonna have to implement controls to reduce the bacteria in the river. And so that might mean tweaking some of the ordinances.
One section to one section.
Well, pretty much, yeah. Because I think it's divided into like fairly large sections of the river. But yeah, they want us to come up with a plan, and obviously, if you look at the bacterial levels, I think from Jefferson upstream, water quality is pretty good there, so, you know, we'll concentrate on downtown, yeah, all the way down. So we will, I think we will have some work with the committee to actually draft or craft these ordinances so we can take them to council.
You have a model in mind?
Not on the pesticide. I think I kind of foresee what we're going to have to do there is we'll do a permitting system.
Do we have aquatic pesticide applicators?
I'm sorry.
Do we have aquatic pesticide applicators already? Or is anyone certified to apply pesticide?
I know Nick Benavides' son is, but that's the only person I know that's got the aquatic endorsement. But we'll probably do a permit system and then do something similar as a hazmat where, you know, we'll provide training, we'll go out and do record checking, and then I think why the state implemented this is that they're probably finding higher levels of pesticides in state waters. I'm not saying here, but just in general. And so the only way I can see to address that would be have rules that state when you can apply. And if, for instance, there's a 50% chance of rain tomorrow, and the guy goes out and sprays a yard, you know, they have to keep a record of that. We go and do a record check and say, hey, you know, there was a good chance of rain, you sprayed anyway, you know, maybe issue citations. I don't know where that level is, 50% or 60% or whatever it is, but I think that's probably how we're going to have to go with that. Because that's really the only way I can see any pesticides getting into our water is just applying it at the wrong time.
Right.
It's completely dry, it shouldn't be entering any other creeks.
Great. Sounds interesting. Any other business from anyone?
Yeah, we can get somebody maybe from the water department. There's some issues with these flushable wipes.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I've had, in my rental properties in the last 3 months, 3 serious clogs, cost a lot of money to get them out. I wanna see what kind of effects they're actually having at the treatment plants.
I know that, yeah, it's a big headache for Rhea,
That's a
and I
big
think
one.
you all, I think it's against the ordinance, isn't it? Did you all?
I
Yeah.
mean, there's gotta be something we can do, because it's been, literally, I'm telling you now, if you have a problem, I'm not paying for it.
Wait, it's against ordinance to have, to use them? So why do they sell them, like, why can't we ban them?
Money,
No, but like, can we
we
get
can't buy like the
private?
plastic bags, I mean, it's the same thing.
They're called flushable.
They put on, now you're flushable wipes.
No, but
And
some,
I fight with them not flushable. I don't care what it says, just because it says doesn't mean it's true.
but some
Well, that's
people
marketing.
flush regular.
You can
ones.
flush golf balls, you know, it doesn't
The
mean.
same things, the regular wipes and the wipes are exactly the same.
It's a good idea.
It's just,
I mean, it's a good idea, but it's awesome.
yeah, you know, putting a dollar.
I've heard stories of people like chopping up bodies and flushing them, I mean, I don't know if that's true.
I talked to Vidal, the dude over there at Clark Hardware also, and he goes, oh my God, all the plumbers are just freaking out. But they're making money, so they don't say too much, and they don't want, but the people that own the properties, I mean, I'm losing money big time.
Well, what if we were to like get some kind of ordinance where, you know, we wouldn't allow them to be, if they're not on the market, people won't buy them, they won't, I don't, like, how many people are gonna go out of their way to order
Scare people to
them?
not buy them, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, well, maybe we can.
I went on a hunting trip, and one of my buddies is a flushable wipey alcoholic or something. He talked right in front of him, dude, what the hell are you doing? Why would you bring those down the toilet? It says flushable on the thing.
Wastewater collection. I believe that's what the division is called, wastewater collection, yes. And he does presentations on those.
Maybe we can get him here and just to see how severe it is in our water
It's
treatment
bad,
plant.
like, it's every day.
I mean, you're treating our water, so
And I actually did some pamphlets, some
Synthetic?
tried book pamphlets and with information about the whiteys and.
But the thing
it's
I've
become a
learned,
real epidemic, and it's terrible.
the thing I've learned about those pamphlets or like writing stuff is that a lot of people, they would rather see like a video or, like, they don't read.
We have a video actually, where it shows fatberg, that's what they call it, it's a brief. Because not only it's the problem with whiteys, it's fats, oils, actually one left, but he can tell you that that's a big problem along with whiteys.
Maybe we need to do like an educational campaign on that and like the water, like when to water or like stuff that people might not know about.
Yeah, Mr. Fuller, if you wanna let me know whenever.
Yeah, I'll let you know, I'll send, when we put post in the agenda, I'll.
I'm Julio, so we can show you guys the page. He really does a very good job with that presentation. We had it like 2 years ago at the environmental summit.
Is it online somewhere? Is it online?
Several of those.
I don't think he has it online. I don't think he has it online, but
We give you like a bit of online.
of course, maybe we should come in here and show you guys like the actual problem. His name is Anthony.
Okay, well, if anyone really doesn't have any other business, I'd make a motion to adjourn. Any second?
Political.
All those in favor? So we'll adjourn to our next regular meeting, I guess scheduled for the month of December. Thank you, everyone.